Welcome to 5% Radio, where it's all about learning like no one else today so you can live like no one else tomorrow. Please be sure to share and subscribe. What's up, 5%ers, and welcome to another episode of the 5% Radio podcast. In the last episode, I talked about picking your hard. It's episode 11. Today is episode 12, and today I really want to talk to you about the difference between results, the outcome, the appearance, versus the process. So one thing that successful people do, and when I say successful, I mean really in any area, that unsuccessful people do not do, so 5% of people do this and 95% of people don't do this, is the unsuccessful people focus on the results, what is measurable, what's on the surface, what they can see immediately right now. If I just look at it at a glance, what results, what evidence is there to support that I'm going in the right or the wrong direction? What can I see right now? The successful people, on the other hand, focus on the process. They focus on the accumulation of the right habits, the right efforts, the right behaviors, compounded over time. A great example of this would be Warren Buffett, who is one of the wealthiest men in the world. And we're not talking about anything really to do with money today, but again, we are talking about, this is 5% Radio. We're talking about why 5% of people are successful, what they do versus what others do, and why 95% of people are not successful. So take this with a grain of salt. If you're like, you know what, I can't stand that he talks about finances or whatever so much, but just listen to this, hear me out. So Warren Buffett bought his first stock when he was 11 years old. He is one of the wealthiest men in the world, and he did so. He developed that net worth of billions and billions and I sound like Trump, billions and billions and billions of dollars. He developed that net worth not by owning companies, not by creating a product, not by starting a business. Now, he does own companies and businesses now, but he did that strictly by investing. He was investing and investing and investing and investing, and he did this with the long-term focus of, I'm going to buy the stock, I'm not going to sell it, I'm not going to short sell it, I'm not going to wait till it goes up $5, and I bought 4 of these stocks and they all went up $10 in the first hour, and I'm going to pull out and I made $40. There's nothing wrong. I have friends that day trade, I have friends that love to short sell stocks and things like that. There are things out there that you can do to make a quick buck, but Warren Buffett understood that he was playing a long-term game. He wasn't playing the short side, he was playing the long side. He was playing years and years and years down the road. And stick with me, because I'm going to tie into exactly what I want to talk about, the results, the outcomes, the what is visible now versus focusing on the process. So he buys his first stock at 11 years old, and he is quoted as saying, now I don't know how recently this was, but it was at some point when he was much, much, much older, in his 80s or older, that his preferred holding of a stock is for life. So his preferred holding time, meaning I bought the stock, how long do I hold it before I sell it? His preferred time to hold a stock is for life. So although some people may look at, well, it went up and it went down and he's lost money and he's gained money, he should sell right now while he's on top, that sort of thing, he is focused on the process, not the day-to-day. He's focused on, if I keep doing the right behaviors, consistent action in the same direction with short-term goals and long-term vision. This is something that I constantly tell my wife whenever we're striving to hit goals. That's a stretch goal. It's something that's difficult, that mentally is taxing. It's like, man, I don't know if we can even see this right now. And you set this goal, regardless of the area that it's in. It's called a stretch goal, meaning it's really, you're going to have to stretch yourself. You're going to have to grow significantly personally to get there. We set these stretch goals, and I tell her the same exact phrase over and over and over again. Consistent action in the right direction with short-term goals and long-term vision. Short-term goals and a long-term focus. So I'm focusing on things that I can achieve over the next couple days, weeks, and months, but my focus is long-term. It's 1, 3, 5, 10 years down the road that I'm actually focused on, and I know that if I do the correct behaviors today, if I trust the process, I will eventually achieve the outcome. So what's the difference here? Well, results, the outcome, what is tangible, what's measurable right now, just at a glance. I can see this. I can't see the process, but I can see this. That's short term. So you can look down at any area of your life and you can justify, you can find evidence of a reason that whatever you're doing is not working. I love to stick with just simple black and white, like clear as day analogies. So we'll just take health for an example. If I wake up tomorrow and I'm totally out of shape and I feel terrible about myself. My energy is low. My sleep is garbage. My health is just, it's crap. I look terrible. I look in the mirror and I'm like, ugh, I feel awful about myself. And I'm like, you know what? I want different results. I want a different outcome. I want something different. I want to be able to look in the mirror and I want to feel good about myself. And I start going to the gym. I go to the gym day one. I wake up. I feel great. I go to the gym. I'm like, man, this is awesome. I'm feeling good. I'm like, man, I look in the mirror and I gotta pump. My muscles are full of blood. And I'm like, that I look pretty good. And then I go home that same day. I don't stay at the gym for 24 hours. I go home that same day and I wake up the next morning and now I'm sore. I go look in the mirror and I'm like, what? There's no difference. There's no difference. And some of you, stick with me again, some of you are like, well, that's ridiculous. Of course not. It's one day. But if you take this same exact line of thinking, if you take the same logic and you apply it out to 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months, this logic falls apart. See, one day it's ridiculous, but long term, you're like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So if you wouldn't do it for a day, why then would I expect I'm going to go into the gym for a week, look in the mirror, and there's going to be this drastic change? I went from having a beer gut, so to speak, where it looks like I might be with child. I went from that to an 8-pack. Like that's not going to happen in a week. I don't care if you starve yourself and work out 3 hours a day. It is not going to happen. Now, what about a month? What about a month, Jesse? That's a realistic time frame. Well, realistic compared to what? Now, I talked about this in another episode. I talked about setting realistic timeframes. I talked about, is it realistic for that time frame? And if it is, in what area? That might be realistic for someone else, or it might be realistic in a different area. It might be realistic to hit it within that time frame, but is that something where you should say, okay, if I don't have it within this time frame, then something is wrong? I believe that was the episode where I talked about getting 1% better. I believe that was episode 2 where I talked about this. You can go back and check, but I talked about just setting realistic timeframes. How can you have a time frame that you can say, okay, this specific time constraint, this outcome should be attainable within this amount of time, given the fact that I do the right process. So when people look at results, they're looking at short term. What happened today? What happened this week? What happened after me doing this 4 times in a row? What happened after me saving money for 3 paychecks? That is results. It's short-term focused. It's immediate gratification. It's what do I have to show right now for my efforts? And if that's not what I thought the outcome would be, then, well, it's not working and I can quit. But you take that same person, instead of results or outcome, what's measurable, what's visible now, and you say, okay, I'm just going to trust the process. I'm just going to go to the gym, put my head down, so to speak, and just start working. And I'm going to go to the gym Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll take Thursday off. I'll go Friday. I'll go Saturday next week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Take Thursday off. I'll go Friday. I'll go Saturday. You do that for 2 weeks. You don't see a result. Now you do that for 2 years. Then you're the person that people say, again, just like I talked about in the last episode, must be nice. Then you're the person that people say, man, that must be nice to have that physique. That must be nice to have this. That must be nice. Man, it must be nice. You got such a great figure and this and that. And, sure, it's nice. Look at the process, though. Look at the process that person had to go through to get there. It was 5 days a week for 2 years. So you see the result. You see the result and you think, man, that must be short term. That must be nice. I'd love to have that. Then you start getting into the process and you try to measure it way too soon. Successful people trust the process. They don't look at the results. They don't look at the immediate outcome. They understand that by going to the gym for 1 week, 2 week, 1 month, I'm not going to get there in 1 to 2 weeks or even 1 to 2 months. It's going to be a process long-term, day in and day out. So number one, the difference between results and process is short-term versus long-term. My measuring stick is longer. It's not a week. It's not a day. It's not a month. It's not even a year, depending on what it is. What's a realistic time frame to achieve your goal? It might be 5 years. It might be 10 years. I have a financial goal right now that has a deadline on it of the age of 35. I have a goal. I'm 28 right now. I'll be 29 in June, which is, right now it's March, so April, May. So that's, basically 6 years and a few months away or somewhere around there. And I have a goal that's set for 35, but I set that goal before I was even 25. I set that goal mentally when I was 18. I gave myself this long is realistic. I should be able to achieve this goal by the time I'm 35. I was 18, so that was literally almost half. It was half my life minus a year at that point for me to go from 18 to 35. 18 to 36 would be 18 plus 18. That's 18 times 2, so that would be doubled. So 18 times 2 minus 1, 35 years old. And I'm 18 at the point that I first verbalized this goal and said, this is what I want in life. So again, short-term versus long-term. Now next, what's different between the results, the outcome, what's visible, what's tangible now, what I can measure and see with my eyes, and what I can say, yes, it's working, or no, it's not working? What's different between that and the process for the second thing, and that is, one is immediate and one is delayed. One is I go look in the mirror right now to see, is there a result? Or I go look at my bank account right now, or I go look at my sales numbers right now, or I go look at the organizational size of my team. I go look at, okay, we set a goal to grow our, I don't even care what it is. Let's say that you set a goal to grow your church. We want to grow our church by 100 people. We want to impact 100 more families. We want to reach 100 more people that love what we do here so much, that love the truth that we preach here so much, that love the kids program so much. We want 100 more families to become part of our church family, and we want to do that in the next 5 weeks. That is not realistic. But you take that same goal and you say, man, in the next 2.5 years, in the next 30 months, you break it down, okay, that's basically 3 families, 3.2, whatever the math works out to be there, 3.3. It's just over 3 families a month that we want to reach, bring into our church, that are going to stay. It's just over 3 people that I'm going to go bring in, actually get to a service that say, man, this place is home. I want to be here. I love your culture. I love your people. I love what you're about. I love what you're doing. That is feasible. And then you just have to get down to numbers. If it's sales, okay, I want to make this many sales. I want to hit this number in top line revenue by this year. Well, it's unrealistic to say I'm going to go from selling $10,000 a month to $60,000 a month in the next 2 months. You might be able to do that in the next 12 months if you are extremely ambitious and you're actually going to go out there and get after it and do everything that it takes. If you're going to set a process in place that is conducive to getting that result and you're going to stick with it, you might be able to get it done, but you're not going to get that done in 2 months or 6 months. More than likely, unless you have that process in place. So you might get it done in 6 months if your process is correct. So again, it's the difference of immediate versus delayed. Thirdly, it's the difference between what others see and habits done repeatedly in private. What you do in the dark will be revealed in the light. The things that you do when no one's looking, the time that you put in at the gym, the time that you train, the time that you are reading, the time that you're listening to audios to sharpen your skills, the time that you're role-playing your sales scripts over and over and over, the times that you're listening to your meetings recorded on your phone or recorded on Zoom and you're listening and you're sitting there taking notes, wondering, what could I have said better? The times that you hop in the car after meeting with that person, trying to help them with whatever they're going through, and you're sitting there and you're thinking about, what could I have done better? Did I listen well enough? Did I reflect what they were saying? Did they feel like they were heard? Did they know I cared before I gave them advice? I don't care what the area is. If you're looking to be successful, it's not what others see you doing. It's what they don't see you doing. It's not what's visible. It's what's invisible. The process of the gym is invisible to most people. They see the physique. They don't see the gym. They don't see monitoring your sleep. They don't see counting your calories. They don't see tracking your water. They don't see the supplement stack that you take. They don't see all these things. And again, I always take it back to something that is easily relatable for most people. If you played sports in school, if you ran cross country, someone sees the fact that you did 3 miles in, 14 minutes and 13 seconds. They see that. They're like, wow, that's amazing. That must be so nice. Can I come run with you? And they get involved in the process. And they're like, I remember I had a friend in high school, and I think he had a super low 4-minute something, like under 4:20 for a mile or under 4:30 for a mile. And if you're like a super high level, crazy fit runner, you might be like, I had that time in high school. Well, last time I talked to this kid about his mile time, it was in high school. So when him and I were talking, his name was Owen, good buddy of mine back in high school. We were on worship team together and we would work out together and run together. And I would do my best to keep up with him, but I loved the gym. I loved lifting heavy things. I loved straining against weight. I loved that feeling. He loved the process of running, but probably more than the process of running is the process of crossing the finish line. But to cross the finish line, which is visible, what others see, the process that went into that, of the amount of calories that he had to eat, the amount of training that he had to do, the amount of runs, the first run of the day, the second run of the day, the amount of drills, the amount of intervals, long distance, time, no time domain, just saying, okay, I'm going to run for 45 minutes. I'm not going to track my mile time. The amount of, okay, I'm going to run, 4 miles with this mile time, back to back to back to back. I'm going to do a trail run this day. I'm going to go to the track this day. I'm going to do hills this day. They didn't see the process. They're like, man, that's amazing. He's got a 4-minute and, 23-second mile. They see what's visible. They see the outside, the results, the outcome, what's measurable immediately right now. What can I just look at and just on the surface, the superficial, what can I see versus the process? Let me pause here. I talked about this in episode 11 with picking your heart. I talked about this in episode 2 with getting 1% better, picking an area. There's a thing that you need to pick right now that's hard, that you're avoiding, that you're not doing, that you should be doing. And there's a great chance that it is a piece of the right process. If you want to be successful, you've got to find a process that is proven to elicit the result that you want. It's proven to duplicate. This person did it, they got the result. This person did it, they got the result. This person did it, they got the result. It's proven to get the result. Define, learn, do. I talked about that in a previous episode as well. It's proven to get what you want. And if it's proven to work for them, then it can work for me. All I have to do is do the exact same thing, because a process does not care. A process is non-discriminatory. It doesn't say, well, you're a man, you're a woman, you're black, you're white, you're short, you're tall, you're skinny, you're fat, you're this, you're that. You went to college, you didn't go to college. A process does not care. If I trust the process, if I do the right behaviors, consistent action in the same direction with short-term goals and a long-term vision, if I play the long game and trust the process day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out. There's a story of a woman that was trying to swim. It was like a 21-mile swim, and I want to say it was like the English Channel or something, and if that's not 21 miles, then it was not the English Channel, or it wasn't 21 miles, just take your pick. But she was trying to swim this, like setting a record, and it was foggy that day. Perfect example to illustrate this. Was not in my notes, but just came to me. And she goes to swim this, and it was very foggy. And there's a boat. This is a true story. It's not an illustration. It's not an analogy. This actually happened. There was a boat. It was like a guide boat, like a rescue boat, just in case the waves were really rough, or she just got super fatigued, or if she just said, pull me out. So the water's cold. It's a terrible day, crappy weather, super, super thick cloud cover. By the way, fog is literally just when the clouds drop down to a level that you can see them, that they basically get in the way of your vision. And it was just terrible, 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 I'm trying to think of the word, but basically your ability to see how far you could see. Visibility is what we called it when I was in flight school. So the visibility was awful. So she maybe could see 3 feet in front of her, but the fog is so bad. It's so thick. It's so dense. She's swimming, and just imagine her stroking. It's cold. She's hungry. She's been doing this for hours and hours and hours. And she finally looks up at the person in the boat next to her, and she says, pull me out. I'm done. Because she can't see where she's going. Now, her process was correct. Left arm, right arm, kicking her legs. Left arm, breathe. Right arm, right arm, breathe. Her process was in place. It had been proven to get other people to swim that same distance, maybe not in the English Channel, but it had been proven to get other people to swim mile after mile, kilometer after kilometer, whatever you want to measure it in. It was proven that if she kept going left, breathe, right, left, right, breathe, if she kept kicking her feet, if she kept going in the same direction, consistent action, the same direction, with short-term goals and a long-term focus, as she kept doing that same thing, she was going to get to the shore. But she was looking at the results, the outcome, what was visible right then and there, and she looks at the person in the rescue boat, the person who's monitoring her, and says, pull me out. Well, they pull her out, and she was so close. I'm not talking that it was 3 feet away, but she was so close to the shore in comparison to how far she had to swim up to that point, and she quit because she couldn't see the end destination. If she would have just continued to trust the process, she would have made it. She ended up doing that swim again in different conditions, and she did complete that swim. I can't think of her name right now, but you can look this up. Just look up female swimmer that quit because it was foggy, and I'm sure this will pop up her name. It'll have the story. You can find the article that you can read there, but she quit because she did not trust the process enough. You have to trust the process. You have to know what you want. You have to know that this process that I'm following will get me there. If you want a better marriage, if you want better health, if you want better finances, if you want to grow your own business, if you want to become a better parent, if you want to achieve a certain status of, not status that other people look at and say, wow, look at them, they're doing great. But if you want to achieve a certain lifestyle, I don't care what that is. If you want to achieve a certain, level of being adept in a certain area with knowledge, you're going to have a process in place that you do every single day. One of the processes that I have in place every single day, I wake up, I do gratitude first thing in the morning. I wake up as soon as my eyes open and I think, man, what am I grateful for today? And I try to list different things every single day. I'll probably do an episode in the future of just straight up morning rituals and day caps, like end caps of what you do right before you go to bed. But for me, some things that I do every single day, a process that I do. I wake up, I practice gratitude. I think about what I'm thankful for, the things that God has blessed me with, the things that in my life that I can look at and say, man, I'm just so I'm so grateful. I appreciate so much that I have this in my life. It might be something to do with my family. It might be our finances. It might be something that God has done for me in my life lately that I can really look at and say, man, I'm so glad that happened. I don't know what it is. It's different every single day, but I wake up, I do gratitude. At some point during the day, I take time, I set aside time, I read my Bible. And at some other point during the day, sometimes these are back to back, sometimes this is all in the morning, sometimes it's all in the evening. It just really depends on the day, where I'm at, if we're traveling, my work schedule that day, if our son let us sleep, all that stuff. But I do have a process, and I do all of these things in the process every single day. At the end of the day, I usually close with reading again. And then as I'm laying in bed, regardless of how much time I've taken that day to pray or anything else, as I'm laying in bed, I pray as I'm falling asleep. Every single night, I pray over things that are on my heart. I pray over people that I'm carrying burdens for. I pray over different things to make sure that my desires are aligned with where God wants me to go, because I don't want to, it's not a name it and claim it sort of thing, but I don't want to go in a direction that I'm not supposed to go, and I'm running hard, and I've got my process in place, and I've set my goals, and I'm doing consistent action, and then I find out that that's not what He has for me. So I want to make sure that I'm in alignment with ultimately why I'm here, is to fulfill a purpose that God has for my life. So my process that I do every single day consists of those things. Now, they're spread out, but I make to-do lists, I practice gratitude, I read my Bible, I read a book every single day, and I've been doing this long-term. It's not I will see if this works. It is a long-term play. Between now and the time I die, every single day, I will wake up. I will do gratitude. At some point, whether it's first thing in the morning or as the day is ending, I will spend time with God. I will read my Bible, not just to check a box. I will read my Bible, make sure I'm in it. I will read commentaries surrounding certain sections if I'm not really sure what's going on in that particular passage of my Bible. I will read a book that is intended to grow myself in the area of finances, success principle, mindset, parenting, relationships, communication, sales, psychology, marketing, business. I don't care what it is. I will public speaking, I will read a book that is intended to grow me in a key area that I am looking to move forward in. And then lastly, as I'm falling asleep, I'll spend time in prayer. I will do this every single day. I'm not doing it as a short term, I wonder if this is going to work. Let's test it out for 6 months. I will do this now and until I die, every single day. That is a process. I have other processes in place in different areas, but for me, just to keep my mind and my heart where it needs to be every single day, that's a process that I have in place. Outside of that, I have different processes that I do for my business that I try to do every single day. Part of this process every single day. When I go to the gym, I have a certain process that I do every single day. When I'm trying to cut weight, there's a process that I follow it's not a process that I look at and say, well, let's measure it in 2 weeks. So if I go to the gym and I'm like, all right, I want to put 50 pounds on my bench, let's measure it in 2 weeks. Have I put on 5 pounds on my bench in 2 weeks? That is way too short of a time. Last time I was tracking numbers for training, I tracked numbers down to the pound. And I mean down to the pound. Like I would write out the weight times the reps, and then I would just simply track the number of sets. I did this for my primary lifts. I did this for my accessory lifts. I did this for everything, to the point where I knew that I could recover from For example, one of the weeks I did like 18,342 pounds, or let's say it was 18,300 something. I did that workout. I kept my food, my sleep, my hydration, my supplement stack, everything. I kept everything the same for a period of like 9 months, tracking out my workouts, drinking a gallon a day, eating a certain amount of calories, sleeping a certain amount of hours, plus taking a nap, stretching this much, doing this much volume. I tracked all of that out for like 9 months. Okay. This was not fun, but I tracked all of it out for like 9 months. And that process, even though I was an advanced lifter, even though I've been lifting since I was like 14 years old, that process added 50 pounds to my bench in 9 months. Now, if you're not a lifter, that might not be that much. If you're a novice lifter, if you're a newbie, you're like, oh yeah, I did that in my first 3 months. Well, that's great. Those are called newbie gains. If you're an advanced lifter, then you might work 2 years to add 50 pounds to a lift. But for an intermediate to advanced lifter, or someone who's not like super, super, super advanced, but they've been lifting for a long time, a decade, doing that process resulted in over 5-pound gains per month. Now, is that exciting? If I would have gone month to month instead of I gained 50 pounds on my bench yet, then I would have been disappointed. But I trusted that process. That process was invisible to everyone else in the gym. They see me benching. They don't see the process of me tracking things out, eating, sleeping, hydration, taking naps, all that stuff. That's not, it's not sexy. It's unsexy work. It's boring work. But what you do in the dark will be found out and exposed in the light. So I trusted that process. Find processes in your life. I'm going to close here with a story, but before I do that, understand there's a difference between a process. There's a difference between what can be achieved with a process and what people assume is talent and gifting. Many, many, many people, this tees up the story that I'm telling, and I'm closing. Many people will look at someone who's exceptional in an area and they will say, oh, they just naturally have a gifting, they naturally have a talent. There's so many books written on this, but right now I'm reading a book called Talent is Overrated. I'll put a link for this in the show notes. Just an Amazon link, don't have any affiliation for it, but I'm reading a book right now called Talent is Overrated, and the author talks about how many studies they've done, and they cannot find anything that would say someone that is a world-class performer got there because they were talented. They had a certain amount of gifting. They had a certain amount of ability at birth, and that's why they got there. See, you would like to think that, because if you can say that someone is talented, someone's gifted, then you can write off, basically you can excuse yourself from trying to get great at that thing. So if I can look at someone who's just a quote-unquote genetic freak, and I'm a lifter, and they lift, 50% more than me on every single lift, I can look at it and say, well, they were probably just born stronger. Could that be true? Absolutely. But were they born with the ability to be that much better than me? Probably not. They were probably born with maybe a little bit of an advantage, but the amount of work that they put in, the amount of hours, the amount of program, the amount of rest, the amount of recovery, the massage work, the stretching, the meticulous attention to detail in every single area, what the author called deliberate practice. And this is also talked about in many, many, many other books, but deliberate practice is basically, I'm going to go right to where he talked about 3 different levels. There was the comfort zone, which is what I'm used to. There was the area right out, if you picture 3 circles, there was the comfort zone, there was the area right outside of that, which he called something along the lines of basically like the stress zone, or it's difficult for me to do, I can't manage to do it long term. Then there was like the freak out zone, like I just lose it, I can't do it, it's too far out of the realm of possibility, it's way out of my wheelhouse, like I'm not even ready for that, the freak out zone. Then there's the practice zone, the stress zone, where it's difficult, but I can do it just barely. And then there's the comfort zone. And he said that people who are world class spend the most time doing what's called deliberate practice, meaning it's just outside of their regular ability. It's something that I can barely do. Maybe if I try it 3 times, I'll get it once or twice, but I'm not going to get it all 3. It's deliberate practice. It wears out your brain. Musicians understand this, and people in sports of any kind understand this. If you're a basketball player and you sucked at layups and you did 10 layups and then sat back and thought about, okay, I just did 10 layups. What can I do better? How can I make sure that I hit the corner of that box every single time to make sure that it hits this part of the rim and it goes in every single time? Okay, I'll do 5, and then I'm going to go sit down and I'm going to evaluate. So I'm going to make a plan. I'll do the plan. I'll check the plan. I'll adjust the plan. And then I'll do that over and over and over and over again. That is a process. Tiger Woods was said when he was in training, one of his coaches said that it was like watching Mozart. By the time he started coaching Tiger Woods, because his dad had put in so much practice with, he felt like he was watching the golf version of Mozart. Tiger Woods had put in so much practice, so much time into the process, not the short term, not the immediate, not what others saw, not the visible stuff, not the results, the outcome, the measurable, oh, look what I can do right now, the surface level, the superficial that everyone wants to say, oh, that must be nice. No, the process. He had put in so many hours. He said he would hit a certain amount of balls, let's say it was 25 or 50, and then he would literally just go sit and just stare out into nothing. And his coach asked him one day, like, basically, Tiger, what are you doing, man? And he said, basically, I'm thinking about what I just did, and I'm wrapping my brain around what I did, what I'm working on, the specific thing in the swing that I'm trying to fix right now, where I'm trying to hit the ball, what I'm trying to do to correct an issue that I have, what I'm trying to do to strengthen a weakness. I'm thinking about that. And then he would go back and he would hit more balls. And then he would go back and he would sit down and he would think. And he would repeat that process over. That is deliberate practice. I'm not just going to the driving range and hitting 300 balls. I'm not just waking up and doing today what I did yesterday without any thought. When I'm reading, I'm not just running my eyes over the pages to be like, all right, I checked the box. I have over 3 years of 10, I think it's almost 4 years now, of 10 pages every single day. I've not missed a day. If I was sick, I had my wife read to me. Audiobooks don't count. Has to actually be taking my eyes from left to right. I had to think about that. I'm like, is it right to left, from left to right on a page? I have to actually do that. And then if I did not understood what I just read, I will go back and I will read it again. And if I find that I've read half a page and I just totally glossed over and I'm like, oh, what did I just read? Just like when you tune out and you're listening to a speaker, some of you have done that during a podcast. You're like, that's fine. It couldn't have been that important, but it may have been that important. Go back and listen to it again. I do that every single day. If I read a book once and I'm like, you know what, I feel like there was more there, I'll read it again. I've had one book that I've read, I think I read it back to back to back 3 times, and then I had to put it down, then I read it a 4th time, all in the same year, just to make sure that I didn't miss anything there. That is a process. So here's a story to close out this example. Michael Jordan, we all know, is one of the greatest. I think he is the greatest basketball player of all time so far. You can say it's LeBron, you can say whatever else, but Michael Jordan had class. There's a lot of ways that LeBron does not have class. Talented guy. Michael Jordan is one of the best to ever play the game. What most of you don't know is that his younger brother actually, naturally, you want to talk about process, talents, gifting, what's outcome, what's visible right now, the results that you can see already. His younger brother was actually better than him at basketball naturally. If you just look at skill versus skill, who's born with what, his younger brother was more talented than him on the basketball court. But Michael put in more time. Michael spent more time obsessing about the process. Even days that it was not a game day, he was practicing. Days that it was a game day, he was still practicing for over 2 hours, just going and shooting over and over and over, working on the jump shot, working on the dribbling, working on the layup, working on the basics over and over and over and over and over. Just the mundanity of the acts he was doing repeatedly. He was doing the process every single day. And if you were to look back and say, well, I don't know how that kid got so good, 6 to 7 days a week of that process, multiple hours a day of deliberate, focused, trying to get better, trying to push yourself every single day, you will not believe how fast you can improve in an area if you truly trust a process. So again, his little brother on the outside results, what's visible, what's measurable, the outcome, what people can see right now, the surface level, superficial. Yes, we can see that right now as it is short-term, immediate, what others see, what's visible. His little brother was better than him. I believe it was little brother. On the process side, though, it was long-term vision. It was delayed gratification. I'm not looking at what my results are right now. I'm not looking at what my results are tomorrow, next week, next month, even this year. It was habits done repeatedly in private. It was invisible to most people. But what was done in the dark came out in the light. So if you want to be successful, I don't care what area it's in. You have to trust the process. Forget about the results. Forget about the outcome. I heard one guy put it this way. He said, divorce the results, divorce the outcome, and marry the work ethic. Divorce the outcome and marry the work ethic. Forget about what's right now. Forget about what you can see when you wake up tomorrow in this area and marry the process. Hope you've enjoyed episode 12. I'll talk to you in the next one.